Okay. Morning, traders. Just let me know if you can hear me loud and clear, and we'll rip into it. Bobby, hey, mate. Shooting, we're up and running. All right. Welcome. Trade setup. The Morning Playbook. It is the 19th of August. So we've got, just looking at now, we'll just go through the basics of what happened or what we're looking for on the key indices today. So most of the action that we see or that we like to watch is on the Hang Seng. So we'll go through it. That doesn't open until 11:15. So we want to see what happens on the open on the SPY. So this is a 5-minute chart on the SPY. What we're looking at on the open is really just a bit of a flush. The SPYs tend to flush, either do overnight highs or overnight lows. So we're looking at sort of this key level around 60, 68 from overnight. See if they can flush it out, see what happens from there. So if it flushes and comes straight back into the range, we might get some weakness back down to the bottom end, 60, 50. Or we might just flush out these lows and then see if we can get a work along off that level at 60.50, or whether there's going to be further weakness down to 60.15. So the markets overnight really are kept up by about 5 stocks. There's a handful of stocks keeping basically the whole of the US up at the moment. It looks like no one's really selling hard into the Dow or anything, or the S&P. It's really just sort of in a holding pattern. But there's a lot that are edging down, but they're getting buoyed by the Nasdaq tech shares. So tech's the place to be at the moment. That trend continues until something changes. We've got numbers out tonight, not numbers, but FOMC are talking at, I think, 4 a.m. So you might see a bit of action around that time tonight. So most people will be sort of waiting to see what they say. If they change tact, what are they going to say about inflation? What are they going to say about interest rates going forward? All these sorts of stuff. Fun action. And the US dollar broke down through 92.50, which, anytime that's heading lower, there's going to be support in the indices, or at least it's going to hold off. So we've got the SPY. It's still, now our market's been a bit negative. You can see this is the action from the open yesterday. I think it was the open yesterday. Yeah, just after the open. So I think we had a short, looking for a short in here, and it didn't look. It did play out, but it just didn't set up like we expected. And then you got this bounce. Come RBA news at around 11:30. The statement 11:30, market took off those, and I think better COVID numbers in New South Wales and Victoria helped change that sentiment pretty much on a dime, and just went bang straight back up. So that, in all honesty, it was probably a tough one to trade on the upside, because you've got this negative move prior, and unless you're watching the news and knowing exactly why it's moving, which by the time you figure it out, you're halfway through a trend. It's hard to buy into something so extended. So yeah, that was a big move. We'll look at Nikkei, which has just opened. Heavy. It's looking a tad heavy, but that's more contractive action, contracted off these highs. That good run up, contraction off the highs. So we're really looking to see whether this level holds at 23,185, and there's a bit more pressure comes into the market for a push down through 22,984, and see where it goes to. Otherwise, we might get sort of these higher lows hold, and we get some sort of buoyant move back up to 23,185 and above. The Dow, wouldn't expect much to happen in the Dow today. I expect sort of the creep lower, as the Dow's been down the last couple of sessions, while the Nasdaq has been up, and the S&P sort of roughly flat to up, just been dragged up by the Nasdaq. So the Dow, if that continues that trend, it's got some heaviness at 28,005. It's been resistance up there. We've got some minor support coming in around 27,685, then down to potentially 630, which are the two levels we're watching. Don't really want to trade in here because I think it's a bit choppy. We're going to see what happens coming to the US session, the European session. We could just get heavy, like I said, a bit of a grind down, which has happened the last couple of sessions. So this is overnight. Get a bit of a grind down. Where was this? The 30-minute chart. So let me just go back. Yeah, so this was more of what was playing out in the Asian session coming to the US. So European open and bang, down. Yeah, it's a bit of chop after that. We'll see if we can sort of grind down and see what happens there. Really, at this stage, looking at the Dow intraday for movement around the Hang Seng and what that could reflect, because it's not getting out of hand either way during the day session, like it was when volatility kicked up hard. You can take a move on that. You can have a wider stop, but the moves were quite big, so you can get these sharp moves, all part of the one. Even if it's contracting or if it's consolidating, if it's range bound, the moves were a lot bigger. Now they're a lot narrower. So if you get on sort of the wrong side, you can get grinded, back out of the action, which is annoying. The Hang Seng, we got a short off on that yesterday. Just got to find. Oh, anyway, I'm going to put a video together about that. I think someone asked a question yesterday, emailed the question just about that. So I'll put together a bit of a video on that short, why, how to follow it, why we entered and all that sort of stuff, all that fun stuff. So this level, we got 25,437 and down at 25,260 on the Hang Seng. Might be a bit of a grind out. You sort of get this contraction move. So again, like the Nikkei, we've had a bit of a run up, got to these highs at 24, just a bit below 25,727, bit below that, and we're contracting off that highs. We might be preparing for another bust higher. So just be wary of that. If we start to blast up through that 25,437, we're down to the 5-minute charts just to look for continuation move and see if we can get a high low holding, buy into that, see if we can extend up to these highs, because there'll be a chunky move in that if it starts to extend. If we get something like this expansion high, that's what you'd be looking for ideally. All right, so you can see that momentum starting to ease on the downside. We get momentum starting to ease on this move down. It's starting to get capped. Last few sessions have broken through and then bounced. This move here broke through this low here, broke through, bounced, broke through that previous low and bounced. So if it's going to take out the support, like we might do today, we might take out that support at say 22, or the lows, this low at 25,233, say, take it out by a few points and bounce again. So you just got to be wary that you're not going to sell the break. You want to be selling it. If we start to get expansion lower, selling it high on the 5 and see if we can get that move down. Otherwise, if it just plows straight into that level on the open, we're going to have to reassess and just take some time. So over to Nasdaq. I mean, nothing much to say on there. Just keeps plowing higher, keeps going higher. So you just got to remember, it is a tech-led boom, or tech-led boom. It is a bubble in the tech sector in the Nasdaq, and it is supporting the S&P, making up up to 25%. Handful of stocks are making 25% of the S&P 500. Out of 500 stocks, 25% or 22% or something is just a few stocks. So just got to remember, if they decide to turn, if there's some profit taken in the Nasdaq or those stocks on stretched levels, the S&P could fall like a stone, and the same with the Dow. So it won't take much to turn. You don't need to move the whole market. You need to move a couple of stocks. And that works on the upside too. If they want to keep buoying this market, if they want to support it coming in the elections, it only takes a few stocks to help support that. The whole of the Nasdaq, which is driving up the S&P, which is the Dow, is keeping. I think it's negating that selling pressure in the Dow as well. Look at the Dow. That's been creeping down the last few sessions, but that's more of a contraction. After this move up, you might get another spike. We got the S&P closed into, I think it closed or it moved. It might have closed into new all-time highs, which it did only just. But again, a massive disconnect between fundamentals and what the market's saying. You've got valuations which are, the higher this market goes, the higher those valuations in the US are, and the more out of hand they're getting, more extended. Again, it comes down to where are they going to put money? Major flows of US dollars is not going to go into bonds because there's no yield, and there's no yield for the foreseeable future, which could support. I mean, all this talk of bearish action into markets, it may be completely, you don't have to worry about it. It could just be pure bulls because there's nowhere else to put funds. There's always, money slushing around the system. When you add more to it with this stimulus, it's got to go somewhere. And really, the only place it's going is to shares, and probably 90% of it's going to 5 stocks. So that's like I'm saying. If that keeps getting stretched, that could be the trigger for just a selling into that. Any sort of cracks appearing into the Nasdaq, into those fangs, then we could get a big sell-off, especially when with that disconnect into the fundamentals. The economy's not growing. It's more of a bounce back, and they've still got massive unemployment problems. All these sorts of things weighing on the market. Coming to elections might be the one we're all sort of sitting around waiting for. No one wants to do anything until then. No stimulus just yet, which is holding these markets up, even continue to push them high until that stimulus changes. The US doesn't want to change direction until we get some stimulus news. Now, the US dollar is the important one, and we just opened, I think it opens at 10, just before 10. It's just maybe 9:30. Okay, it's just broken down again in the US. So it's 92.50, that zone was sort of what we're looking at. It's broken through there. So from here on in, it could just be pure selling pressure I don't think it. I mean, I said yesterday I wouldn't have thought it was going to be a massive sell-off until we see more numbers, or at least we find out more on stimulus. But it did break down. It might be a bit of a trap, and we start to bounce coming to the 4 o'clock Fed announcement. We might be waiting for that. But either way, I think it's the market probably recognises we need more stimulus. Until they start to say something on the stimulus side, the markets can continue that trend down. And we're looking support further down to 91, and then after that, we're looking down to about 88. So if that's the case, that's going to be supportive of stocks, supportive of gold, supportive of commodities, basically supportive of everything. So that's really the main market we're watching. I mean, that's all you got to watch at the moment. It's even supportive of Bitcoin and things. Let's look at crude OPEC announcement. I think 95% of or 97% of OPEC constituents or whatever, whoever they are, groups, countries, supporting the production cuts, which is a positive, which means that any sort of weight that might come into the market has been offset by that supported cuts support into the cuts. That makes sense. I think I'm spitting it out properly. So yeah, that I would think that it's going to be sort of more bullish. We might get some contraction. You can see lower highs playing into higher lows. Which one's going to win out? I'd be banking on this is going to hold up and banking on higher levels. And copper just took off, with that fall in the US dollar. Expect more action. As long as that US dollar is going down, copper's going to keep charging higher. We're back up to these highs. Look for a blowout through, say, three, for instance, this level. If we start to get that, that's well and truly extended, but extension means nothing if you're going to keep getting that move down in the US dollar. They'll keep charging that higher. Last, I'll just quickly look over cryptos. I mean, actually, crypto and gold. So Bitcoin, it has been quite bullish. You had this move up here, negated. So I don't like the fact that it's come falling down again, crashing down after we push through these highs. Go to a longer term. We'll go to the daily. Daily's still relatively constructive. And that move up might start to play into some of these highs. We might be just looking for a wash out of this high. It was that 12,327, 372, which is this high from way back in August last year. It's about a year ago now, just over a year ago. That might be the market's targeting that. Otherwise, we've got a few highs that it might be looking at 13,170 and then up to 13,900. So there's still some room to move on the upside. It's just that rejection off that level. It might just be purely that everyone's looking at that level. It got up there, people are happy to sell, lock in some gains, and then we find the bulls start to step in again at higher levels and then continue that move up. So really, we just look to see how this selling, if this starts to get held up around this zone, starts to find bulls again, and then potentially there's something on the upside, set up on the upside of high lows. And gold is just that US dollar move, hand in hand. The way that flush down there was quite surprising. If it's really strength into that gold move, you wouldn't have expected that flush. You would have expected to get capped quite early. But the fact that it flushed down, it bounced back pretty quick. You can say there's a few elbows in there playing around. It also shows a bit of tentativeness on this bounce back up in gold. So there might be some people that were buying it here, they're still underwater, that might have been saw that and get quick to get out, and you're just lacking that buying support, or anyone that's held it for a long time is starting to get nervous up here. We've seen this big sell-off, grind back up again. We might be in for another sell-off, who knows? Again, everyone's just looking, it's purely focused. And as long as that US dollar goes down, gold will go up, and we'll see a move back up to 2070 and above probably. But if the US dollar bounces, we find something that's going to trigger a rally, then expect gold to get sold off. And you can see that by that movement down, this sort of sharp sell-off did recover, but there is some unease into gold at the moment. Well, at this stage. All right, that's all probably we're looking at the moment. I mean, actually, just looking at gold, you could probably, if that starts to break up again, you've got to move through 2010, could trigger some more buying. It might be a nice little entry there as long as it's low holds, just below 2,000. Stop below there. You might see if you can, run up, continue that move up. And there was something else I just had a look at. Euros. If that, that's just because the US dollar sold down again, that could be continuation higher. I don't know. I wouldn't want to enter it just here with a stop below. It could be a flush and then you get smashed. And the hard thing is coming into that number, the FOMC tonight, to take any sort of serious position on those. US yen has really Here we go, more weakness into that. That had a good run up and got smashed on that US dollar moved lower, which I don't think anyone was sort of expecting to continue through 92.50. I thought we might get held up, and it was sort of that uncertainty and stimulus and everything else. There's no reason to sell it down, but they just look like keep plowing down until something happens. The US, like I said yesterday, notorious for continuing the trend until something changes. They don't hold up. They won't get to a level and think this is fair value. Will overshoot, overshoot, overshoot until something changes. And the same on the downside. They won't change direction until news triggers it, and then then it'll correct sharply. All right, guys, that's probably about it. We'll be back in again tomorrow at about 9:40 for just that session. We'll see where the SPY has opened just to start, and boom, we got liftoff. So that was more than a bit of a wash out of that zone. It's just plowed straight up. So the SPY's doing that a lot lately. It's not washing it out slightly. It's just plowing straight through it to trigger a hell of a lot and just dragging those buys that might dump on them later. We'll just see. So here I wouldn't be buying up here, wouldn't be selling either. So I just have to watch to see what happens on the SPY. That's a big move, 60, 68 up to 86, another 20 points. 20 points on the SPY from that Dow move. Let's just see what the Dow's doing. Dow's not doing much at all. So strange move on the SPY, but it's maybe it's some of that euphoria from yesterday coming back into the market on the open. All right, guys, enjoy your day. Happy trading, and watch out on the Discord channel. If you wanted to join in some of the intraday stuff, send us an email to support@tradesetup.com.au. Ask for the Discord link, and I'll send you out that link for the intraday stuff that I'm just popping up. Most of it, looking at the SPY open, most of it will be based around the Hang Seng today, maybe on the Nikkei, but we'll see. All right, guys, enjoy your day. Speak to you again soon. Bye.